They laughed when she walked in, because she was 17, 5 foot nothing, and carried a helmet bigger than her head. But when the roar of one motorcycle shook the walls, laughter died fast. Because the man riding it wore a patch no one mocked.
Take care of this.
And the girl beside him was his
family.
blood. Before we start this story, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? Also, please subscribe to the channel. It will help us to bring you more inspiring stories every day. The Blackthorn Roadhouse buzzed with sound, boots on old wood, clinking glasses, guitars thrumming low under the hum of engines outside. It was Saturday, the night the Hollow Saints Motorcycle Club met to trade stories and scars. The last thing anyone expected was a teenage girl walking through their doors. Riley Cole, 17, lean and bright-eyed, stepped over the threshold like she belonged there. The laughter started almost instantly, low at first, then rippling louder. "Oh, what's this, career day?" Someone shouted from the bar. Another voice barked, "Lost your babysitter, sweetheart?" Riley's chest tightened, but she didn't back down. She'd come for a reason. "I'm here for the Hollow Saints," she said evenly. "I want to ride." Silence, then more laughter, harsher this time. "You want to what?" A broad man with tattooed knuckles stood, smirking. "This ain't a high school club, kid. Try the debate team." Riley met his eyes without blinking. "I'm not here to play." The tension shifted, mockery flickering into curiosity. Because nobody that young spoke with that kind of steel. The man she faced was Diesel, the Saints' enforcer, 6'4" and carved from old trouble. He took a slow step forward, half amused, half testing. "You even know what it takes to wear that patch?" Riley didn't flinch. They know what it stands for. Loyalty, brotherhood, respect. Diesel's grin faded just enough to reveal interest. Around them, conversations hushed, engines idling outside like patient beasts. "You think you can just ask for a ride?" he muttered. Riley's voice shook once, then steadied. "No, but I can earn one." A few men chuckled, but one older biker in the corner, white beard, scar down his cheek, tilted his head. His name was Bear. "Kid's got guts," he said. "Maybe too much." Diesel turned back to Riley. "You got a bike?" "Not yet," she admitted, "but I've been fixing engines since I was 12. More laughter. Diesel smirked. "Cute. Who taught you that?" She took a deep breath. "My father." "And who's that supposed to be?" Diesel asked. The answer came not from her lips, but from outside. The ground began to shake before anyone saw it, the unmistakable growl of a V-twin Harley cutting through the night. Heads turned toward the open door as a black and chrome motorcycle rolled up, engines snarling like thunder barely contained. The rider killed the ignition, swung off, and stepped inside. Leather cut, faded from years of sun, marked with a single chilling insignia, Hellsangels, California Charter. The bar went silent. Diesel's mouth snapped shut. Bear straightened. The man's boots echoed slow and certain across the floorboards. Jaxon Cole. Gray at the temples, eyes like steel, presence like gravity itself. Riley's father. He stopped beside her, resting a gloved hand on her shoulder. "She bothering you boys?" No one answered. Jaxon glanced at Diesel, then the room. "Didn't think so." He turned to his daughter. "You sure about this?" "Yes," Riley said quietly. "You told me to earn what matters." "I'm ready." Jaxon studied her for a long moment, then nodded once. "Then tonight they'll find out who you really are." The Saints weren't an easy crowd to impress, but Jaxon Cole wasn't just any man. Stories about him rode on the wind. How he'd once taken down a cartel pipeline, how he'd walked away from fire when others didn't. "Didn't think we'd see the Reaper here again," Bear said quietly. Jackson's jaw flexed. "Ain't about me." He looked at Riley. "It's about her." Diesel crossed his arms. "No disrespect, but this isn't a family business. We don't take kids." Jackson's tone turned cold. "Then don't Take a rider. Let her prove herself. He set something on the table. A worn black patch, its edges frayed from years of rides. The property of the Hellsangels, MC. The room stilled. Every man knew what it meant. Legacy, blood, and consequence. She earned this, Jaxon said. Not with miles yet, but with loyalty that'll outlast most of you. Diesel looked at Riley again, differently this time. You sure you want in, girl? Once you wear colors, there's no going back? Riley nodded. I don't go backward. Not anymore. They led her to the back lot, engines already rumbling to life. Jaxon stood off to the side, arms folded, watching his daughter face a test no book could prepare her for. Diesel handed Riley a helmet. If you can keep up with me for 10 miles through the canyon, you're in. Far behind, you walk home. Riley's stomach flipped. She had borrowed an old cafe racer from the garage, rebuilt piece by piece with her own hands. It wasn't much, but it was hers. As the bikes lined up under the pale wash of moonlight, she could feel her father's gaze on her back. Ride clean, he said simply. Then Diesel gunned his engine and the race began. The canyon swallowed them whole, curves sharp as knives, wind clawing at her face, every muscle screaming to hold steady. Diesel checked his mirror once, expecting to see distance. Instead, he saw her, still there, still fighting. By the 5th mile, even he started to smile. The kid wasn't bluffing. She was born for this road. The canyon roared with noise, engines echoing against the cliffs, sparks of chrome and wind slicing through the dark. Diesel leaned hard into the turns, tires spitting gravel, but every time he looked back, Riley was right there, her cafe racer screaming at redline, hair whipping out of her helmet like fire. Fear had no place here, only rhythm, instinct, and courage. Diesel pushed harder, testing her. When he cut sharp through a blind bend, she mirrored him perfectly, inches from the edge, steady as gravity itself. At the 10th mile, he braked hard at a turnout overlooking the valley. Dust swirled around them. Riley coasted in seconds later, breathing hard, eyes wide and alive. Diesel stared at her, chest heaving. You didn't quit. Wasn't planning to, she said, pulling off her helmet. The other riders caught up, headlights painting long streaks across the dirt. Jaxon stepped forward, his expression unreadable. You kept up with Diesel? Didn't keep up, Diesel said, still catching his breath. She rode beside me. That silenced everyone. They rode back to the clubhouse, slower this time. No more laughter, no more disbelief, just respect carried in the hum of engines. When they parked, Bear was waiting by the door with crossed arms and a grin that showed more pride than amusement. Kid's got grit, he said. You can't teach that. Diesel swung off his bike, shaking his head. You ever scared her? She doesn't know how to quit. Jaxon gave a faint smirk. She gets that from her mother. Inside, the roadhouse had quieted. Even the bartender, an old-timer named Vince, paused mid-pour as Riley walked back in. Someone clapped slow, then faster, until the room thundered with applause. But Riley didn't smile. She simply nodded, eyes steady. I'm not here for approval, she said softly. I'm here to learn. Diesel raised a brow. Then you start at the bottom like everyone else. No exceptions. Jaxon's voice cut through the room. Good, that's how it should be. Bear lifted his glass. Then welcome, prospect. The title landed heavy, earned, not gifted. The next few weeks turned Riley's world inside out. Mornings meant cleaning bikes, running errands, fixing engines with grease under her nails. Afternoons were for rides, not the free kind, but endurance tests across back roads that left her body sore and her hands raw. Nights were the hardest. The clubhouse came alive with old stories, whiskey and ghosts of the past. She listened more than she spoke, absorbing the rhythm of men who had lived on the edge and learned to respect the drop. Diesel trained her without mercy. You don't ride with us for fun, he told her. You ride so the man beside you knows you won't fold. Bear taught her the unspoken rules, when to speak, when to ride, when to stand between danger and your brother. One night Maria, the club's old medic, pulled Riley aside. "You're different," she said. "Most people join for the patch. You're here for something deeper." Riley nodded, eyes distant. "I'm here for the man my father was before he stopped talking." Late one evening, Riley sat alone in the garage, polishing her cafe racer under the flicker of a dying light bulb. Jaxon found her there, cigarette glowing in the doorway. "You've changed," he said. She smirked. "That's the idea, isn't it?" He studied her quietly. "You really want this life?" "I don't want your life," she said softly. "I want to understand it. The brotherhood, the code, the thing that saved you." Jaxon leaned on the doorframe, eyes shadowed with memory. "You think the angels saved me?" She looked up. "Didn't they?" He exhaled. "They gave me something to fight for. But saving yourself, that's a different ride." He reached into his vest and pulled out a small, time-worn patch, Support 81, red and white. "This was mine when I started. I carried it through wars, funerals, and miles I don't even remember. But it doesn't belong to me anymore." He placed it in her palm. "It's yours, if you're still brave enough to carry it." She closed her hand around it, heart pounding. "I am." The next morning word spread fast. Jackson's girl had the red and white. The air around the Hollow Saints felt different, charged with a mix of curiosity and respect. Diesel approached her during maintenance hour. "You realize what that means, right?" Riley nodded. "That I represent more than myself now." "Exactly. That patch doesn't just say you earned it. It says you die before you dishonor it." She met his stare. "Then I won't." Bear chuckled nearby. "Kid talks like a preacher, rides like a demon. Maybe we've been underestimating the next generation." That night, the Saints gathered for their weekend run. The full chapter, every patch in place. As engines roared to life, Riley fastened her helmet, feeling the weight of her father's legacy against her chest. The first time she'd walked in, they'd laughed. Now every head turned with quiet respect. Diesel nodded toward her. "Ready, Prospect?" She smiled, fire burning in her voice. "Always." The pack rolled out into the open road, and this time, nobody questioned her place in it. By the end of that month, Riley had become part of the rhythm, a gear in the living, breathing machine that was the Hollow Saints. She no longer flinched when engines roared or when Diesel barked orders. But respect, she'd learned, wasn't permanent. It was something you renewed every day. One night, while the others played cards inside, she was working late in the garage, replacing a chain on Bear's Harley, when she overheard voices outside. Two men in suits, their car idling at the curb, were talking to Diesel. The tone wasn't friendly. "We know Cole's got product moving through the canyon," one of them said. Diesel's reply was low, sharp. "You don't know a damn thing." The men laughed. "Tell your boss to keep his girl close. She's seen too much." Riley froze behind the wall. The sound of footsteps crunched gravel as they walked away. When Diesel came inside, his jaw was tight. She pretended not to notice, but something in her gut twisted. The road she'd chosen suddenly looked darker than she'd imagined. The next morning, Jaxon arrived before sunrise. He never came early unless something was wrong. He found Riley by the workbench, hands already covered in grease. "We need to talk," he said quietly. They stepped outside, the dawn air dry and sharp. "The Saints," he began, "aren't clean. You know that, right?" She frowned. You thought we just rode, fixed bikes, and drank beer." He shook his head. "Some of the boys have side hustles. Running pots. Moving things they shouldn't." She swallowed hard. "And Diesel?" "He's trying to keep order," Jaxon said. "But he's in deep. Those men last night? Feds." Riley's heart kicked. "Then why are you here?" Jackson's gaze softened. "Because you still have a chance to ride free of it. You don't owe this world your future." She met his eyes, unflinching. "You taught me to finish what I start. If the club's in trouble, I'm not walking away." He sighed, almost proud. "You sound just like me," he said, "and that's what scares me most." Later that week, the tension in the clubhouse could be felt through the walls. Diesel called a meeting, the kind that wasn't about routes or rides. When Riley walked in, everyone went quiet. "We got heat," Diesel said flatly. "The feds are watching. Someone's talking to them." Murmurs filled the room. "We don't rat," Bear growled. Diesel's eyes flicked to Riley for half a second. Not accusation, just caution. "No one's saying that. But we need to clean house." Riley stood. "Then let me help." The room shifted uneasily. Diesel frowned. "This isn't your fight." "If I'm wearing colors," she said, "it is." Bear leaned back, smirking. "Kid's right." Diesel rubbed a hand over his face. "Fine. We start small. Find the leak." Riley spent the next days checking shipment logs, cross-referencing runs, noting when outsiders had shown up uninvited. What she found wasn't a mole. It was something worse, a name written on old invoices. Her father's. Her breath hitched. Jaxon Cole, the man who'd taught her everything, was still tied to the old network. The past had followed her home. That night, Riley confronted her father in the garage, the same place he'd once taught her to rebuild a carburetor. "You lied to me," she said, voice trembling. Jaxon turned, weary. "I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you everything." She held up the invoice, crumpled in her fist. "Your name's on their runs." "Old runs," he said, "before I got out." "Then why are they still using your name?" Silence. The answer was written in his eyes. "Because the deal never died," he admitted. "I tried to end it clean. They wouldn't let me. That's why I came here, to protect you before it hit the club." Riley's chest tightened. "You think they'll come after me?" "They already are," he said. "And if we don't end this now, the feds will come after all of them." She stepped closer. "Then we end it." He looked at her like she was still 6 years old, sitting on the tank of his Harley. "You don't know what you're getting into." She met his stare. "Neither did you. But you rode anyway." The plan formed fast, reckless, and necessary. Riley and Jaxon would ride out to an old storage lot on the edge of Lone Mesa, the last drop point still tied to his name. Diesel wanted to come, but Jaxon refused. "This is between me and them," he said. "No club blood tonight." The night air was cold as steel when they pulled out, 2 engines cutting through the dark. Riley's heart pounded, adrenaline sharp as the wind. When they reached the lot, headlights revealed 2 black SUVs waiting. The same suited men stepped out. "Didn't think you'd bring the kid," one said. Jaxon stood tall. "This ends now. You clear my name from your files, or I burn every deal you've ever made public." The man laughed. "You think we negotiate with ghosts?" His hand twitched toward his jacket, too slow. Riley drew first, the small revolver steady in her hand. "Try me," she said. The man froze, eyes flicking between father and daughter. Jaxon smiled faintly. "Told you she's faster than I ever was." And that was when Diesel's headlights appeared over the ridge. The roar of engines rolled across the desert like thunder. A line of bikes crested the ridge, Diesel at the front, Bear right behind, the Hollow Saints in full formation. Their headlights cut through the dark as they fanned out, boxing in the SUVs. The agents drew their weapons, but the bikers didn't flinch. Diesel's voice boomed over the engines. "You want Cole, you deal with all of us." One of the agents sneered. "You're obstructing a federal investigation." Diesel smirked. "Nah, we're protecting family." Riley stood between the men and her father, her revolver steady despite her shaking hands. Jaxon reached for her shoulder. "You don't have to do this." "Yeah, I do," she whispered. "You taught me not to let fear ride shotgun." The agent aimed at Jaxon, but before he could fire, Diesel revved his Harley once. The sound shattered the silence like a war cry. The men flinched. That second was enough. Riley fired, not to kill, but to break the tail light of the nearest SUV. The bullets sparked, and every bike engine roared alive at once. The desert exploded with defiance. The SUVs peeled away in a haze of dust, tires screaming against gravel. No one chased. The bikers formed a protective semicircle, their engines idling low, a sound more warning than threat. Riley lowered her gun, adrenaline shaking through her veins. Jaxon took it gently from her hand. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded, voice breaking. "I didn't freeze." "No," he said softly, pride and sorrow mixed. "You didn't." Diesel dismounted, stepping close. "They won't be back tonight," he said. "But this isn't over." Bear lit a cigarette, shaking his head. "Feds don't scare easy, but neither do angels." Riley caught that word and looked between them. "Angels." Diesel nodded toward Jaxon. "Your old man wasn't just any rider. Back in the day, he was a Hell's Angel enforcer. Half the men in this club learned the code from him." Riley blinked, realizing the patch she carried meant more than legacy. It meant protection. The kind you didn't ask for, the kind that carried consequences. Jaxon met her eyes. That patch was earned with blood. "If you wear it, you better be ready to carry the weight." She exhaled slowly. "Then I'll carry it right." The next morning, the saints gathered at their lot under the rising sun. The air smelled of gasoline and dust, but the tension had lifted, replaced by quiet awe. Riley stood at the center beside her father. Diesel held something in his hands, a leather vest, black and crisp, its back patch blank except for a small stitched emblem. A single red wing. "Every rider starts somewhere," Diesel said. "But this one, she's different." He looked at the others. "Last night she didn't flinch. She didn't hide behind her daddy's name. She rode like one of us. Hell, better than some of us." A murmur of agreement swept the group. Bear whistled low. "Girls got more guts than half the boys I've seen come through here." Diesel handed her the cut. "You're not a prospect anymore. You're saint property, and you've earned it." Riley slipped it on. The leather fit like destiny, heavy, real and alive, with the weight of every mile that had come before. Her father placed his hand over the patch. "Welcome home, kid." For once she didn't correct him. For the first time in years, home had a sound, and it was engines. Weeks passed, and Iron Veil began to talk. The story of the teenage girl who shut down a room full of bikers, spread across every garage, bar, and roadside diner from Arizona to Nevada. Some said she was reckless. Others said she was a legend in the making. But to Riley, none of that mattered. What mattered were the rides, the long, wordless stretches of road where she found peace in the hum of tires and wind. She started helping Diesel manage the club's outreach work, fixing bikes for vets, running charity rides for families of fallen riders. At first, people doubted her. Then they saw the way she led, firm, fair, unshakable. Even the older members followed her cues now. Jaxon watched from the sidelines, proud but quieter than before. One night, he handed her a small metal keychain, a miniature Harley with the initials JC etched underneath. "It was mine," he said. "Until now," she smiled. "You really think I'm ready to carry it all?" He chuckled. "You already are. You just don't need me to tell you anymore." The highway called again, and this time she was the one leading. The sun bled gold over the horizon as the Hollow Saints gathered for their annual memorial ride. Engines lined up in perfect formation. Diesel at the front, Bear beside him, and at the center, Riley, her patch catching the light. The youngest saint in the club's history. When she pulled on her helmet, the world seemed to pause. This wasn't just a ride. It was a promise. To the road, to the men who'd built it, and to the ones who'd never come back. As they roared onto the open highway, a convoy of chrome and thunder, Riley glanced in her mirror. Her father rode behind her, the Hell's Angels cut glowing faintly in the sun. She smiled beneath her visor. The laughter that once met her name had turned into respect. The kid they mocked had become their proof that bloodlines could evolve and legacies could grow wings. Ahead, the road stretched endless and untamed. She twisted the throttle, the world rushing forward. For the first time, she didn't feel like she was following anyone. She was leading the way. If Riley's story lit something in your chest, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell. Because out here, every mile tells a story. And sometimes, the ones they laugh at become the ones they follow. Ride safe, brothers and sisters. Your road is waiting.